Well, hello and welcome to this month's Leadership Chat. My name is Tony Dahlin, for those of you who haven't had a chance to meet yet, and I am just honored to be able to share a little bit of leadership with you guys for this month. First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody who stands in a position of leadership here at The Well, because it is really you guys who are leading the charge when it comes to loving people, loving our community, loving our teams into a deeper level of relationship with Jesus. And we just think it's amazing. I just really thank you personally for who you are in my life and our family's life and the work that you're doing here at The Well. And so this month we wanted to talk a little bit about our process, our leadership process that we refer to as GEM, how we want to grow, how we want to engage, and how we want to multiply. And this month we're going to talk about multiplying the life of the leader. And traditionally when we talk about the M in GEM, in multiplying our leadership into others, I know for me, I always think of the verse 2 Timothy 2:2 that says, "You've heard me teach things that have been confirmed by many reliable witnesses. Now teach these truths to other trustworthy people who will be able to pass them on to others." And this is the multiplication formula for leadership, especially within the church. Paul is telling his protege Timothy, hey, teach these things to others who are going to teach them to others. And that's what we want to do when we multiply our lives into those that we're serving, that we're leading. We want to multiply that leadership into the lives of others so it just kind of grows exponentially. But today, what I want to do is take a little bit of a twist on this and not so much talk about multiplying in the concept that we're typically used to, but I want to focus in on the word life, because the M in GEM says we multiply the life of the leader. And so we want to multiply the life of the leader, not just the leadership qualities, but the entire life of the leader. Now, when I think about that, and when I think about what makes up my life, I have my spiritual life, I have my family life, I have my vocational life, I have my other relationships that are in my life. And so we want to be able to multiply all of this. Now, I know when I say that, at least for me, even saying it out loud, it's kind of intimidating, because it makes me think to myself, do I really have a life? Do I really live a life that is worth multiplying? And so when I think about that, that's kind of scary. And I know in church leadership it can be scary. For those of you who don't know me, I used to serve as a youth pastor, and I have a business in the city of Chicago, and I have a family and 3 kids and aspirations and dreams and all of these things. And when I was serving, there was always this tension that was in me that I felt like I was being just mediocre at everything, that I wasn't really being exceptional at anything. And so the thought of multiplying that kind of life wasn't really appealing to me, because I was frustrated by mediocrity in my life, because there was this myth that we were supposed to have some type of work-life balance. And I call it the myth of balance. And we kind of look at balance in our life sometimes the way that a small child looks at the love of a parent. And it's kind of faulty. So if you have more than one kid, you may have experienced this, that when the older kid or the younger kid comes and jumps in your arms and wants to play, or you're holding that baby, the other child kind of gets a little bit jealous, because there's this belief inside of them that there's only so much love to go around. Now, when we look at that, we kind of realize that that's not really the case. It's not how love works, that we can love all of our kids, that there's not this finite capacity of our love. But yet somehow when we think about balance within our life, we think that we can only be good at certain things, or we can only give all of our attention to certain things. Like there's this, we got to give 50% of our life to our vocation, and then our marriage needs to have 30, and then our kids only get 20, and then that only leaves, and it doesn't add up, and there's just too much, and we get frustrated, and then we think we're not firing on all cylinders. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk about how we can just dispel that myth of balance and I want us to adopt kind of 100%, what I call 100% mentality. Jesus said when he came that he came to give us life, and he came to give us life in abundance. God's word also tells us that we have been given everything we need for life and for godliness. And so we don't have to be frustrated by mediocrity. The abundant life that Jesus gives us when we're living in that as leaders is definitely a life worth multiplying. And so we shouldn't be settling for just passing on leadership qualities and tendencies and all of those things. The people that we're leading, the people that see us should see such an abundant life in our spiritual life, in our leadership life, in our vocational life, in our family life, that they would want some of it. And we get to pass that along as leaders. Remember, all that leadership is influence. And we have the opportunity to influence others. And here at the Well, we want to love them into a deeper level of relationship with Jesus. And as they get loved into that deeper level, they're going to experience that abundant life. So let's take a minute and think about how can we begin to live the abundant life, the life that is worth multiplying. And Pastor Jerry, in one of our recent series, had talked about being intentional with our lives, being intentional with our time, being intentional with our gifts. And that's what I want to talk about right now, is if we want to live an abundant life, if we want to pass on a life that is worth multiplying, then we should be intentional. And so here's what I mean first. We need to be intentional with our time. And I know Pastor Jerry touched on this, and he passed it along to me, and so I'm going to pass it along to you. And I want to hammer this home, is that we need to be intentional with our time. So we need to have a calendar. We need to have a calendar where we can begin to live out that 100% mentality. And here's what I mean by that, because I didn't state it before. The 100% mentality is this: that you can be 100%. You can give 100% to your job. You can give 100% to your ministry. You can give 100% to your marriage. You can give 100% to your family. You don't have to divide this stuff up. But the only way to do it is to be intentional. Because if we're going to be intentional and we want to give 100%, we can only give 100% if we're really present in those moments. And the only way to be really present in the moments is not to be ruled by the tyranny of the urgent, but be real intentional about our time. And so we need to set things aside and block things off in a calendar so that when we're in that space, when we're within that time, we can focus and we can give 100%. There's an example of this in the book of Luke, chapter 10, verses 41 and 42. Jesus goes to visit his friends, and he's in the house of Mary and Martha. And you guys have probably heard this. And Martha is scurrying around, and she's trying to get everything done and get prepared for Jesus to be there. And her sister Mary is just kind of sitting at the feet of Jesus. And Martha gets upset, and she's like, "Hey, can you tell her to get up? And can you tell her that there's stuff to do, and I need some help in here?" And Jesus says to her, "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. And Mary has chosen the better, and it won't be taken away from her." See, Mary had something there where she was just present in the moment with Jesus, 100% there. And Martha was worried, and she was running around, and she was scattered. And Jesus says, "No, listen, be present. Be present." And in the world that we live in, it is hard to be present. Even me talking about it right now, I can't think of how many times I've been, just distracted by my phone in a conversation, or when I'm out on a date with my wife, or when I'm talking to somebody else, and I'm not 100% present in the moment. But as leaders, if we want to multiply our lives, we need to learn how to be present. And the first step is that we need to be intentional with our time. We need to be able to set that time aside. In the second thing, and the last thing that I want to touch on, along with being intentional with our time, is that I want us to be generous with our talent. So we're intentional with our time. We're going to create a calendar and be 100% present. But we also need to be able to look at that calendar and also be generous with our talent. So then when people tap us on the shoulder and ask us to be part of their lives or invite us along in a way that we can serve them, we're not so ruled by the talent or by the calendar. We've left some margin in there so that we can find ways to say yes. And one kind of piggybacks off the other, because we want to find ways to say yes as leaders. When the church needs us, we want to be able to say yes. When our family members need us, we want to be able to say yes. When a friend needs us, we want to be able to say yes. But we need to be able to define what yes looks like. And that gets right back to the importance of being intentional with our time and our calendar. And guys, if we can learn to do these simple things, if we can be intentional with our time, if we can be generous with our talent, we will start to experience the abundance that Jesus was talking about, and we don't have to be frustrated with mediocrity and spreading ourselves thin. We can learn to give 100%. We can have that 100% mentality. And when we do that, I'm telling you, life is going to be a lot easier on your end, and you're going to have a life worth multiplying. Thank you guys so much.
So if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call this week. You can always reach out to me, Jerry, at cometothewell.org. You can call us at the office, 630-262-1083. My extension is 101. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.